Hello there everybody, this is General Snivy and welcome to my new Let's Play. And this has been a long time coming, as now we are finally tackling Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. As I've mentioned before, also hello Shawaria, welcome to the stream, glad you can make it. Okay, I'm not really sure what I was trying to say before, but regardless, this was originally planned to be taken on much earlier in the year. However, after following this game for quite some time up to the game's release, I learned that this game is not just a simple port, but almost a borderline remake of the original game. It's not a remake, let me make this perfectly clear. This is not a remake of Xenoblade Chronicles, it is a remaster. However, it definitely went above and beyond when it comes to a remaster, in my honest opinion. But, and this is a very big but, there is still some things within this game that hold it back from becoming a full-on remake. And we'll be getting into those details soon enough. So, when it comes to me in this game, I've been wanting to cover this game for years, and I mean for a very long time. Like, ever since I first played through the game on the Nintendo Wii back in the day. And yes, this game is most definitely on Nintendo Switch, as you can see here. So, yep. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This, honestly, is the definitive way to play this game in every regard. So, for this playthrough, I will be playing through this game via New Game Plus, if the title screen did not just do that. Honestly, I thought maybe if I didn't idle around enough, maybe? Okay, so apparently if you leave the title screen idle long enough, it'll actually change. I never knew this. Well, anyway, let's start ourselves a New Game Plus playthrough. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and begin Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I will say this, I only put a little bit of time into this game. Oh, I don't know, 143 hours and 52 minutes? I mean, seriously. Jesus. Alright, let's begin. Let's carry over part of this data and start a new game. Ignore those desktop notifications.
Long ago, the world was nothing more than an endless sea, cloaked in a boundless sky, reaching as far as could possibly be imagined. Then two great titans came into existence. The Bionis and the Mechonis. The Titans were locked in a timeless battle. Until at last, only their lifeless corpses remained. Eons have passed. Now, our world, this vast land stretching across the remains of the Bionis, is under attack from a relentless force known as the Mechon.
from me! Retreat! No retreat! The end becomes unknown! No! No!
Want to know who that is over there? It's Duncan, the hero of the hams. Okay.
For a
No.
bunch of soulless machines, they seem to know a thing or two. But we'll see.
Young man, we've been given the order to retreat. We're pulling back the line to Colony 6. That's where we'll set up the last line of defense.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Any more time spent hanging around here, and we're done for.
Count me in. We gotta get out of here.
Or we can stay and fight.
What?
We may die if we take a stand here, but staying gives us the chance to change our destinies. We have the Monado. With this, the future is ours for the taking.
Stupid beast. Your body can't take any more of the Monado. I can tell by just looking at you.
Getting short-sighted in your old age, Dixon. I'm fine. Don't worry, I'm still in control.
I should have known I couldn't talk sense into a beast. Let's do this. I'm going with you. You'll need someone to drag your corpse off.
As long as you think you've still got the strength in you, old man.
Oi, you two! We've been ordered to pull back! I'm leaving!
Well, I say you're coming with us. What would we do without those?
The enemy's second wave is approaching!
It's now or never, Dunban. Let's show them what we got. We'll give them a warm Hom's welcome.
Acknowledged.
Yeah! Ha! What are they trying to prove? I'm not throwing my life away. No point dying in some godforsaken field. Nothing for it. I'll have to use Dunban as a decoy. Yeah, that should give me time to escape.
So here we go. Welcome to New Game Plus. As you can see, things look kind of weird. For anyone who is anyone who has played this game knows that immediately upon starting, you would be given a tutorial on the basic controls and how to play the game and everything like that. You'll also learn about the Monado and also how Dunban uses it to enchant everyone. However, upon starting New Game Plus, everyone is automatically enchanted by the Monado simply because of one pretty big thing with New Game Plus. Upon starting New Game Plus, you don't actually get the Monado at all. Sure, you get it for cutscenes, but that's really about it.
You're gonna be kidding.
It's their main force. Looks like the Mechon are hell-bent on taking us out.
They'll have to be if they want to beat us. Now, let's even the odds a bit.
You heard him.
Dixon, Munka, let's do this.
Oh my. Seems that the Monado has a bit of a weird effect on poor Dunban.
I ain't going down that easily. Dunban, you alright?
What does it look like? I'm still good to go.
Guess even a hero's gotta reach his limit eventually.
Munka, what are you doing? That way is...
Sorry, brothers. Hate to drop this on you, but it's the Monado they're after. So have fun keeping them occupied for me. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Mumka, you dirty.
Now, don't worry. I'll organize your funerals. Well, see you, boys.
Wait!
If this is a joke, it ain't funny. Looks like this is it. At least we know our luck can't get any worse from here. Dumban?
Dixon, take care of the survivors.
Dumban, what are you playing at?
Those idiots. I'll just come and get the Monado when everything's quieted down a bit. That thing's gonna be mine!
Oh my, poor Mumkar. Actually, who gives a crap about him?
Oh no, please! No!
Vile Mechon. If you think the Hobbs, the people of Bionis, are just waiting here for you to pick us off, you are sorely mistaken.
And thus begins our journey of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Although these loading screens do take quite a bit of time to get through.
A Mechon M71. I bet I can use its optical system to align one of the anti-air batteries. Oh, no good. It's broken. The joint section. It's buckled. It's completely useless. Ugh. Huh? An M69! Its armor would be perfect for making a shield. If I can just get it off, I should be able to... Shoot! Rhine! It's not a Mechon. It's just a Crabble. It was using the Mechon armor as a shell.
I'll lure it away and topple it. When it's down, use your arts to finish it off.
Sounds good to me. Although this should be pretty easy enough. Whack, dead. Everything is dead. But anyway, welcome to the game, folks. Welcome to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Ignore the pretty sword of which Shulk is having on his back. This weapon is technically called the Monado 3, but when you first start the game, you actually get your hands on this weapon, the Junk Sword. So, what exactly is this whole category of items right here? This is known as fashion gear. Fashion gear are bits of armor pieces and weapons, etc. that were first introduced in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where if you like the look of a certain weapon, but you hated the fact that it had piss-poor stats, well, you could equip that weapon via the fashion gear, and bada bing bada booma, you got yourselves a pretty badass looking weapon without actually affecting your actual stats. I've also held true when it comes to their fashion gear, such as their clothes, hats, etc., and even their starting weapons. And the reason why is just to keep things as close to the original as much as possible when you're first starting out. So, that, as they say, is that. I'll get more into the equipment thing in just a short while. First, though, I'm actually going to enable what is known as Expert Mode. Expert Mode is a mode where you can adjust the level of all of your party members. And I mean all of them, from whatever level they're currently at, all the way down to where they originally first started. So in this instance, I'm going to be lowering both Shulk and Rhine's levels down to 1. And the reason why I'm doing this is just to keep things from getting boring really fast. Of course, I will be increasing their levels throughout the course of the game. And basically what Expert Mode will do is not only does it give you more control of what levels you can set your party to, but it will also makes it so any sort of bonus experience you get from certain activities are put into a reservoir, in which case you can then apply that experience to yourself and your party at a later point in time. So, ignore that. My phone was just going off. I don't know who was calling. It's a number I don't recognize, so I don't care. So anyway, Shulk and Rhine's levels can go as low as level 1, and obviously the highest level any character can achieve in this game is level 99. So, there's that for you. And one other thing worth mentioning here is there are some additional things to go over, but we'll go over that in due time. For now, let's just go ahead and proceed now, shall we?
We can't lose. This one's mine. Thanks, Ryan. That was a close one.
Man, what were you doing wandering off by yourself? Stay where I can keep an eye on you. It's pretty dangerous outside of the colony. There are all kinds of monsters.
Yeah. But thanks to you, we got its shell. Everyone in the colony is going to be really happy.
I'm more worried about you than the shell. Oh, whatever. Knowing what you're like, at least you'll make a decent weapon out of it. This scrap driver's excellent.
I just learned by watching Dixon make weapons.
Of course, Dunban's weapon still beats them all.
The Monado. I hope I can figure out the secret of his power one day.
You will, Shulk. Anyway, we better get back to the colony. If I'm late for drills again, old Squaretash is gonna kill me.
Squaretash? Oh, the Defense Force Colonel. He's pretty scary.
Tell me about it.
Sorry, I didn't mean for you to come all the way out here during your break.
Don't worry about it. Let's get back.
There we are. By the way, whenever you defeat an enemy, they will more than likely drop a treasure chest. They range in a couple of different colors. There's the brown chests, which are the common chests. The silver chests are semi-rare. And finally, there are the gold chests, which are the most rare. Basically, the better the chest, the more valuable materials you'll get from drops. So that's something worth mentioning there. And as far as the actual combat system is concerned, in order to initiate combat, you push the R button on the Switch controller to select your target, push the A button to initiate your action, and then go to town on whacking everyone in sight. Of course, it's not as simple as targeting an enemy. Of course, you have to keep in mind that you have arts to work with. There are several different kinds of arts of which your characters can utilize in combat. Let's first go ahead and show off what I mean. First, there are the red arts, which are physical arts. Physical arts will deal physical damage. Pink arts will probably inflict a effect known as break, which then you can utilize that effect for even more carnage. So if you're working together with multiple different party members utilizing different skills, you can basically break the entire game's battle system in half in more ways than one. There's also blue arts, which are ether-based arts. Ether-based arts have a variety of different effects, such as lowering aggro on a particular character, healing them, charging up what is known as the talent gauge, which Shulk technically has his second talent art available in New Game Plus, which I will be going over at a later point in time. His first starting talent art inflicts break, and in order to charge your talent art, it's kind of character dependent. Most characters charge their talent art just by whacking enemies with their auto attack. When you get close enough to an enemy, a character will automatically start attacking an enemy. However, if you approach them from a different angle, you'll be able to unleash a art that may be considered super effective against them. Whenever you see an art with an exclamation point next to it, that means that art is super effective against them at that particular position. So, believe it or not, that exclamation point thing was not in the original Xenoblade Chronicles. You kind of had to guess of when to execute your arts and figure out what the best positions were. Also, this icon is known as a heart-to-heart. Depending on where you are in the game, you'll be able to view unique interactions between two particular party members. And as we go throughout the entire game, we'll be able to unlock these heart-to-hearts and be able to view them at our leisure. Of course, that's not exactly the whole story. In order to actually be able to view a heart-to-heart, we need something what is known as affinity between two characters. During my playthrough, I maximized my affinity between all of my party members. Shulk and Ryan obviously have the highest affinity, meaning they practically love each other. Well, not so much love, but more like treat each other like brothers. If you know what I mean. It's kind of like the relationship between Monkey D. Luffy, Porcus D. Ace, and Sabo. If you know what I mean. Not related by blood, but are purely just related by means of just brotherhood. It's a brotherly bond, and that's just the way it is. So, when you're initiating a battle, you'll notice an icon with the B button engaged. If you push the B button like just before the outer circle enters the inner circle, what you'll do is you'll activate what is known as a Battle Start Affinity or something like that. And depending on the timing, you'll be able to increase the affinity between the two characters, or multiple characters in the party for that matter. And basically, you'll increase their tension. So what is tension exactly? What tension is that, to sum it up, it works something like this. It's kind of like the morale system from The Last Remnant. Basically, the higher the tension between characters, the better they'll do in battle. Obviously, if they have low tension, then their attacks are not going to be doing very much. If they have low tension, attacks are more likely going to miss, and they won't be dealing as much damage. However, in high tension, you'll not only be dealing more damage, but you'll also just have better synergy between you and your party, and just everything works out better overall. So, that, as they say, is that. Tension is kind of complicated to explain, but basically, if everyone's all fired up, you're going to be doing some good things. You can easily tell who has high tension and who doesn't by looking at the character portraits. If they look like they're raring to go like this, then that means their battle tension is pretty damn good and at a normal level. If you see flames underneath that character portrait, that means that they're at high tension. In other words, that's when they're at their best. However, if they're looking kind of down and depressed, then that means their tension is low. And later on in the game, or more or less, when battle tension is low, and they start to act all depressed and stuff, you can actually go to that particular party member, push the B button, and restore their tension back to normal. So, that's something worth mentioning right there. So, one thing worth mentioning here is that when it comes to treasure chests, depending on what's inside, you can choose to take individual items, or you can just take everything that is there. So, I guess I will go ahead and start mentioning some things in New Game Plus, which is pretty interesting. All of the bleh. New Game Plus is quite an interesting beast, to say the least. So with New Game Plus, in the original Xenoblade Chronicles, when you started New Game Plus, you would take a certain number of items within the save files selected and carry them over to New Game Plus. I'm not exactly sure what the actual number is, but regardless, it was a fairly small number, making item management incredibly difficult for New Game Plus players. So, yeah, that's definitely something to mention right there. Thankfully, in this version of the game, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, you get to carry over just about everything, and I mean just about everything. Of course, there are still some things you don't carry over, such as key items and also affinity for towns, but your affinity for party members, they stay with you. Even in the original Xenoblade Chronicles, this is true. So, basically, what you're able to carry over, I'll go ahead and go over here, you can carry over all of your weapons, your gear, and all of your gems, and everything else in between. You also carry over all of your skills from your skill trees, and skill links. I believe you can carry those over as well, but at this point in time, it's technically locked. And let's go over these particular things right here, starting with the skill trees. When you start a new game, each character has 3 initial skill trees. And as you battle enemies and level up and things of that nature, you'll earn SP, known as skill points. And skill points are needed in order to earn particular skills for particular characters. And as you progress through the game and complete more and more side quests of the game, which let me tell you, there's a lot of them, you'll unlock additional skill branches, up to 2 additional skill branches per character. And in total, each character can have up to 5 different skill branches, each having their own distinct skills and different unlocks. I've unlocked basically every single skill for every single character with the exception of one. One character, which I've only unlocked their final skill trees recently. In other words, like before this playthrough began. And I haven't really worked on their particular skills yet, but we'll be going over their particular skills in due time. Let's take a look at arts next. As far as arts are concerned, you can level up arts up to 10 when you first start the game. However, if you complete the game's epilogue, you'll be able to purchase what are known as art books, and these art books can allow a particular person's skill art or arts level can go up to as high as 12. In the original game, the highest amount of level for art can go as high as 10. The same holds true for Shulk's second talent arts, which again will be gone over at a later point in time. I've taken the liberty of leveling up every single person's arts up to level 12, so we don't need to worry about that anymore for basically the entire playthrough. So basically, whenever you defeat an enemy, you'll gain not only experience, but you'll also gain skill points, as well as art points, also known as AP. So, that is pretty neat. Alright, let's get moving. Welcome to Colony 9. The first major town of the game, folks.
Here we are. I better stop in at HQ. You off to the weapon development lab?
Yeah, when I've sold any parts I can't use.
All right. See you later.
So, Ryan has temporarily left the party for the time being, but I'm sure we'll be able to reunite with him soon enough. So anyway, one of the things that doesn't carry over from your original playthrough and New Game Plus is the maps and also locations in which you mark down, as well as what are known as fast travel points. Whenever you discover a landmark, that activates a fast travel point, meaning if you push the Y button, you'll be able to fast travel from one particular landmark to another very easily. You'll also notice these white exclamation marks on different parts of the map here, if I push the right button. These white exclamation point marks are what are known as quests. If you speak to a particular NPC with these exclamation point marks, you'll be able to do a quest with them. My niece asked me to get her something cute. I just wish I was better at finding stuff like that. Will you help me? Sure, that doesn't seem like a problem. And so, upon looking at the quest details, you'll be able to figure out what it is you need to do. A resident wants to find something cute for his niece. Collect some collectibles. So, for this quest, we need to collect 2 rabbit dildies? I have no idea. Regardless, I've already collected everything I needed for this quest, so let's just accept and hand everything in. Great, she'll be thrilled. And quest automatically complete. Ha! So basically, any sort of collectibles that you've had from your first playthrough, as soon as you start New Game Plus, you'll be able to bring them over to your next playthrough. So that makes completing quests that much easier and faster. Speaking of quests got a pretty major overhaul in Definitive Edition. And maybe I'll be able to show this off soon enough. Regardless, though. Okay, looks like this is a perfect opportunity to do that. Let's look at Challenge 2. You've been asked to eliminate a gigantic monster because it looks hard to defeat. Defeat Verdant Buckurl, whatever the hell it is, near Anti-Air Battery 1 in Colony 9. So, this is a kill enemy quest, or a bounty hunt quest. Alright, before we actually go into details of what the quests changed, or how they changed between the original and the Definitive Edition, I'm going to try to grab as many quests as I can, like right off the bat. Oh, goodness gracious, you won't believe what a silly fool I am. I've lost something I really need. Will you help me find it? Sure. So basically, we need to find a key for this person. I knew I'd get you all fired up if I did my damsel in distress act. Cute. But I'm a fool losing my door key. My fate is in your hands. Alrighty then. That seems simple enough.
Oh, hi.
Hello there. I'm the only one stationed in the commercial district. It's no fun. I hope the others will visit me. So, pay attention to your map and look for green dots on the map. You may have noticed that some of the residents we've been speaking to just have generic names like Colony 9 Resident. However, green dots, as they are marked on your map, those are named residents, and we need to speak to those people in order to add them to our Affinity Chart. The Affinity Chart is something that is considered to be one of the most important aspects of tracking quests in the game. There's some hand bunnets just outside the commercial district. It would be very dangerous if they got inside the colony. Could you go and deal with them? Sure, that doesn't seem too hard. Oh, thank you, I feel safer already. By the way, when you're talking to certain people, they may have multiple parts to their quest line, so be sure to talk to them over and over again. You never know, you may find out that they may have some additional objectives.
Hi there.
Also, apologies that I keep going through these incredibly quickly. I really shouldn't be doing that, but oh well.
Hi there.
Wow, how many do you have? Okay. So, basically this guy here has a bunch of monster quests. Each of them are divided into separate parts. And of course you have to accept each and every quest in order to do all the parts. Do you know where to find Vang Teeth? My grandma keeps on telling me that she needs 2 of them. There must be for her handcrafts. If you don't find them for me, I'll never hear the end of it. Why don't you go search for them yourself? You doof. Thanks a million. I don't know if getting them will be dangerous, but if so, be careful. Alright, that shouldn't be too hard. So, one other thing worth mentioning here is that, as you can see, the time of day actually does change. I'm not really sure what the equivalent of time passes between an in-game day versus real-time minutes. Thankfully, you don't have to worry about it being tied to a real-time clock or anything like that. So, at least that's something worth mentioning. Although, keep in mind that the clock in game is pretty damn important when you're trying to interact with certain NPCs, as certain NPCs only show up at particular times, so that's something to keep in mind.
Who's there?
Hello there, young'un. I got something that might interest you. Rather, something to tell you. It's about this here furnace. When creatures die, they leave ether crystals behind. Everyone knows that, don't they? Ether particles in the body are... Oops, that stuff's too complicated. It's kind of like the Force from, Star Wars. Just remember that creatures drop ether crystals when they die. But I haven't got the best parts... Haven't got to the best part yet. Ready? Don't be shocked. This furnace compresses ether crystals and removes impurities. Use it to make ether gems. What? No reaction? Kids these days. You don't know how amazing this thing is. You can use the furnace to make ether gems. They got the powers of ether crystals, but highly condensed. These ether gems can give you all sorts of powers. No kidding. More on this later. They're great for use in the home or by the defense force. Just put them in weapons or armor with slots. What? That's not much of a reaction. Never mind. It'll probably be quicker if you try it. If you want to give it a try, just put gems in your weapon slots. That weapon of yours will do just fine. That's pretty neat. We also get our hands on some nice gems to start with. So, talking to the gem maker honestly is not that bad of an idea. Considering that the gem maker actually is pretty important at this point in the game. Anyway, before we head into where we need to go to next, let's take a look around town and see if there's anyone who we need to speak to. Like you, for example. I lost something really important, my wedding ring. It's so small I've looked all over, but I can't find it anywhere. Can you help me out? Sure, no problem. In fact, I've already found said wedding ring. I really don't want my wife to have a go at me. I'm counting on you. And already done. So one thing worth mentioning here is upon completing quests, you'll increase a town's reputation, or more or less a area's reputation. Basically, the more quests you do, the higher the reputation the town will receive. It's very important, especially when you are trying to get your hands on some very rare items. Basically, try to do as many quests as you can. Trust me, you will thank me later when it comes to doing quests and getting your hands on particular items. Have you got any yolkless flammy eggs? They make the best omelets. I want to make one for my girl. Think you could bring me one? Sure, no problem. You really gonna help me out? Nice one. You should be able to get them from Flammy around here. Funny enough, when it comes to quests, you can choose to accept or decline quests, but honestly, you should accept every quest that you come across. Also, new to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, after I talked to Pepino, you may have noticed on the map there's a red exclamation point. Well, that red exclamation point is where a particular quest item could potentially be located. So, that is pretty damn important. And that is what leads to the whole quest overhaul. Basically, any sort of quest items that require you to get things, well, they previously were not marked on your map and you had to run around blindly in order to find these items, making questing kind of tedious and a pain in the ass. But thankfully, in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, that aspect has been fixed completely. So now you know exactly where to go and what to do. I've lost the tool I need for work. I just don't know what to do. Without that, I can't even make enough money to eat. You couldn't find it for me, could you? Sure, that shouldn't be a problem. I really owe you one. I left it back in the commercial district last time I went to work. By the way, I'm pretty sure that certain items only appear during particular quests, so that's something to keep in mind. Yoink! There we go. By the way, these red orbs here, they are considered key items. And key items, as I've mentioned before, they do not get carried over to New Game Plus. So that's something to keep in mind. And you have to collect those again during your next playthrough. Also, like I said, it's always important to try to talk to every named NPC that you can, as doing so will not only update your Affinity Chart, but it could also open up potential quest lines for later. And trust me, you kind of want to do that, especially when you're trying to unlock additional skill trees for particular characters. Because basically every single skill tree that you can unlock with a particular character, they only open up at a later point in time they only open up when you're doing certain quests at particular points in time. Thankfully, you don't have to worry about missing these particular quests. And funny enough, you don't even need to do quests in order to complete the game at all. In fact, you can just flat out ignore them altogether, with some exceptions, which I'll go into as we come across them at a later point in time. I figured there was another NPC around here. I'm on the watch again today. Are there any more interesting missions going? Every time I get near this bridge, I just can't be bothered. Only joking, it's my job, so I make sure I give it my best. Okay. By the way, if you're looking for a particular NPC and you know they only come out at certain periods of time, you can actually go into the first submenu by pushing the X button on your Switch controller and select Change Time. You can change the time in 1 hour increments. And you can change the time to whatever time you wish. Just one thing to keep in mind, though, is that the clock system in this game runs on a 24-hour format. So in other words, you're basically working with military time. So if there is, say for example, an NPC that comes out at around 3 p.m., you gotta think here, what is 3 p.m. in military time? That would be 1500 hours. So that's something to keep in mind. Honestly, it really isn't too difficult to figure out what the corresponding time is. So, again, just count from a single unit from 12 o'clock. So 1 o'clock is 1300, 2 o'clock is 1400, 3 o'clock is 1500, etc., etc. All the way up to hour 23. In which case, afterwards, it resets to 0 hour. Okay. Again, that shouldn't be too hard to find. Funny enough, as I mentioned before, most quest items can be found very easily by looking at your map. Growing rocks. Okay, that shouldn't be too hard. In fact, I already have them for you. Here you go. I love it when I'm able to just instantly complete quests. It's just so satisfying because it actually pays to be able to explore around. Because believe it or not, this game is an open world game. So you don't necessarily have to follow an objective marker in order to progress through the story. You're free to explore the entire region if you want. Of course, you may be blocked off by progression gates at certain points, but even so, you're free to explore basically an entire area freely without too much of a hassle most of the time. Of course, there are going to be some exceptions to the rule, which I'll be going into later. Also, considering that Xenoblade is considered an open world game, something to keep in mind is that the enemies, even though they've been relatively harmless right now, trust me, alongside those harmless enemies, you may encounter beasts of which will completely wreck your face in. So in other words, high-level enemies are going to be mixed in with lower-level enemies as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that we've been getting these things what are known as achievements. Believe it or not, this game does have its in-game achievements. There are two different categories for achievements that you can earn in this game. There are the trial achievements, and there's also the records achievements. And I believe those achievements can be listed under collectibles and achievements. Here we are. Record achievements, I got 132 out of 150 achievements. The records achievements will carry over from one playthrough to another. So in other words, these carry over to New Game Plus. However, the Trials achievement, they do not. These do not carry over from playthrough to playthrough, and you have to re-unlock these all over again. However, upon completing any achievements at all, you'll gain a pretty substantial amount of experience depending on the achievement and the difficulty. By the way, I'm pretty sure the difficulty rating system was not in the original game, and these were added in Definitive Edition. So you'll be able to figure out which achievements are considered the most difficult right off the bat by looking at the chili peppers, and they range in the scale of 1 to 3. 1 chili pepper means that it's not difficult at all and can be completed relatively quickly if you know what you're doing. 2 is fairly difficult and will require some effort. However, 3 chili peppers means that these are very difficult achievements or are very big time investments. So that is something worth mentioning here. So, not only did the achievement system get updated, well, not really updated per se, but more or less they've are reorganized in different spots. But the entire menu itself has also been reorganized too. So, originally before, in order to bring up the menu, you would have to push, I believe, 1 on the Wii remote. And I'm not really sure what the corresponding button was on the classic controller. But regardless, though, it was a bit of a pain. Not too much of a pain, but still, it was definitely not fun to deal with. Plus, the menus were pretty damn slow to navigate, too. So that's something else worth mentioning right there. Okay, that was actually pretty easy. Usually when you're trying to find key items, you'll notice the key items are marked via red orbs. Upon collecting them, you'll be able to progress to the next part of the next quest. So, that's something worth mentioning. Okay, so for this particular quest right here, we're given a key item and we just have to deliver it to another NPC. Funny enough, most of these quests here are considered fetch quests. However, there's still a fair share of other kinds of quests that involve just simply running from point A to point B to defeat Monster A and Monster B, and then return to the claimant. And bada binga bada booma, the deed is basically done. The beginning quests themselves at this point in the game are going to be very easy to complete, and even if you don't have the required items, you can take a look at your map and look for exclamation points. The red exclamation points means that those are considered quest items. Those quest items are marked in red, meaning these quests are technically not being tracked. You can actually keep track of these quests very easily by pushing a particular button. As far as which button it is, that would be down on the D-pad. You can sort these quests by current, or you can view every single quest that you've acquired throughout the course of the game. You can also sort it by completed quests and also quests by locations. As we progress through the game, this list will be filled with all kinds of different towns. So, if you want to track a quest, just simply push down on the D-pad, look at the quest you're looking for, and push R to set the quest as active. So, let's take a look at Monster Quest 3 Part 1, for example. If I push R right here, this quest is now active, technically, and it's being tracked. So, that means if I look at the map now, as you can see, there's a bunch of blue exclamation points around here. Those are what are needed for tracking certain quests, or whatever quest you're working on. So, that's pretty nice. Get your son to like studying. That actually is a pretty big conundrum, as this kind of situation varies from person to person. Okay, this doesn't seem too hard. Definitely important to aim for something. Will there be a reward of some kind? There may be some quests that you get your hands on, and you may not be able to complete those particular quests right away, simply because it requires you to go into an area that you simply cannot access at that point in time. You can still accept the quest, but you may not be able to complete it right away. And honestly, it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. Just simply put, be sure to accept as many quests as you can, and as you're progressing through the game, you'll be able to take on those quests soon enough. By the way, you can also figure out which thing you want to do. If you push ZR, you'll be able to switch between story, memo, and also switch between your current quest count. So, if you're tracking a particular quest, you can very easily just switch from story, memo, all the way to your quest. So, yeah, questing is made a hell of a lot easier in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. And let me tell you, this is definitely the best way that quests have been tracked in this game. Let me tell you, it honestly is. And really, once you start playing Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, there is no going back at all. No going back to the original. Of course, there are some changes made between the original and Definitive Edition, other than the obvious, which are the graphical overhaul, which is more in line with the art style of not only an anime, but more or less Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has more of an anime aesthetic. Which, honestly, I love anime aesthetic because I am definitely an anime fan. I love anime. Hence the reason why I have a subscription to Funimation Now. As it's definitely my preferred way of viewing anime outside of, other means, aka pirating them, or viewing them via illegal sites, if you know what I mean. Well, regardless, I definitely prefer this aesthetic. And as you can tell, most of the character models, or at least the main cast character models, have all been updated substantially. And I mean substantially. Each of them basically have had their character models reworked and were rebuilt from scratch. However, some other minor characters and NPCs, they basically had their character models touched up a bit, so now they look a little bit nicer. However, they're still a bit jagged in a few places, which we will see soon enough. But they still look great for what they are. So, that's something worth mentioning. So, another thing I haven't mentioned yet is that certain characters, such as Shulk, have their own unique battle styles. Shulk's battle style is more or less based on purely on positioning. Depending on your position, you'll be able to execute arts more effectively. So, another thing I only brought up briefly is known as aggro. Whenever a character such as Shulk does an action, such as executing an art or auto-attacking an enemy, they'll draw an aggro from an enemy. And of course, that aggro is dependent from person to person. Sometimes it's not a good idea to have too much aggro for one particular individual versus another. Shulk, for example, you really shouldn't have too much aggro on him, but he can still work with a bit of aggro. I'm just saying though, aggro and Shulk is not exactly the best thing around. That would belong to someone like Rhine. Rhine is more or less the tank of the group. The tank of the group is more or less built for aggro and aggro control. By the way, if you want to track a different quest upon completing it, just simply push down on the D-pad again and just select a different quest. Bada bing, bada boom, problem is solved. And that is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So, another thing worth talking about here is that there is one other aspect of battling, and that is what are known as unique monsters. Unique monsters are, well, unique, meaning that they're typically stronger than your average everyday monster. They have their own unique names, have their own unique attacks, and also have some pretty badass music, and it's probably the most iconic thing about the game when it comes to this game's soundtrack. Speaking of the game's soundtrack, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition actually has a remastered music score. Although it's not really fully remastered. It's just a lot of the tracks in the game have their music remastered in a particular way. So in other words, they sound a bit different. Sometimes they sound completely different, and other times they just sound better overall. When it comes to me and my personal preference, I actually prefer the remastered soundtrack. It just makes an already great soundtrack that much better. However, if you're one of those people who doesn't like the remastered tracks, you can actually go into the options menu from the system menu here and go over to sound and choose to change the field background music and battle background music from arranged to original. So that's actually pretty nice. Also, in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, as well as the original version of Xenoblade Chronicles, you can change the language from English to Japanese. So if you prefer the English voice acting, also my internet just officially shot itself. Great. Shit. Oh dear, I've been having internet problems all day. Shoot. Damn. Well, thank God I'm able to save at any time, and also I'm thankful that I'm able to record this playthrough at the same time. I really did not want to end this session here, but it looks like I may have a choice. My internet has shot itself and there's nothing I can goddamn do. Welp, I guess we're having a short session today. So, at this point, you're not really missing much of anything. So, let's go ahead and just call it a day here. This is General Snivy with the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition playthrough. Thank you all so much for watching. Although, you probably aren't going to see very much considering my internet has shot the bed. But regardless, I am recording this stream at the same exact time, so the footage you do see is from the recorded version. Next time, we're actually going to progress through the story and actually have a better experience. In other words, a better connection experience. Jesus flip. This has been a pain. So, again, the end. Apologies for the short stream, but when my internet shits itself, there's not much I can do. So, again, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. See you all later for more Xenoblade action.